All right. So good morning, good afternoon, and evening to all of you in your respective time zones. Today, we are going to discuss the incident management application and how you can quickly realize the value out of it. Your speakers today will be the product owner of incident management, Shiva Srinivasan, and I am Rohan Tyagi, part of the customer experience team at ServiceNow. So before we get into the real content, a couple of housekeeping items. All those who are attending the webinar today, your lines will be muted. So if you need to ask any questions, please use the Q&A panel to post your questions. At the end of this session, we'll take all these questions and answer each one of those. For those who are watching a recording or who are not able to attend this live session, they can still ask the questions on the community where the post has been posted, where this event has been posted. And at the end of this session, you will also receive a survey. Please fill out that short survey that helps us improve the future topics. Now, who should be attending this webinar? People who are new to either ServiceNow or the incident management process, who are the incident management process owners and project managers, our implementation specialists, and partners. So the agenda for this session will be, we'll talk more about the business process, how you should think about the various aspects of incident management process. What role does the incident management application from ServiceNow plays in that process, and how you can quickly get up and running and realize value out of this application. We will also walk you through some additional tools and resources, and at the end, we'll save some time for Q&A. So with that, I'll hand it over to Shiva, and Shiva will walk you through the rest of the slides.
Hi, everyone. I actually own the incident product for ServiceNow. And today's discussion is focused around incident management as a process, as Rohan mentioned. And then we will take you through a quick demo and also, help you with any questions that you might have around the process or with ServiceNow incident management as a tool. So let's take a look at the process first. And if only my keys will work here. So before we get started, right, like what is an incident? Today, if you have an existing tool, you might have a process in place, or you might have like a simple process, where you are logging incident requests all together in one application. It's quite possible. I've done quite a few implementations. So I see where our customers still have incidents and requests going in one system. So it's really very important for us to understand what really is an incident, and you should be able to differentiate between an incident and a request by the end of it. So what is an incident, right? So this is the ITIL definition, and where we talk about it, it's that it is an unplanned interruption. So this is something that you were not anticipating. It could be that a service is impacted, an IT service is impacted, or there is like a performance issue or any kind of a slowness in the performance, right? So you think that it is possibly that something else is getting impacted, or a configuration item is down, or a server is down. So this is really incident. So per ITIL definition, it is an unplanned interruption or reduction in the quality of an IT service. So your IT service might or might not be down, or you could see that, it might get impacted. Now, what is the goal of incident management as a process? Obviously, if an IT service is impacted, or you think that, there could be a performance issue or slowness in the quality of the service, you definitely want to resume the normal operation as soon as possible and ensure that customers are able to access, the systems or the services back up as soon as possible. So that's really high-level definition of incident and what is the goal of incident management as a process. Now, you will see, in ServiceNow, we clearly differentiate between incidents and requests. The customers do have a single portal where they can actually come and either report an incident or request for a service. Additionally, we do have, and I just wanted to mention it there, right? So how do you differentiate? You have a service desk, and you have your users calling in. So what can ServiceNow, how ServiceNow helps you to differentiate is we do have an application called a Service Desk Call Plugin, which helps you differentiate between incident and request. So whenever a customer calls in, you just ask your questions and figure out, hey, is it truly an incident, or should I route the customer to the service catalog and create a request instead? So you could definitely use that to differentiate between incidents and requests. Now, when it comes to incident management as a process, there are obviously different roles, and if you're thinking about implementing an incident process in your organization, you need to think about these different roles. So first of all, we talk about caller or an end user. Now, this is the user who can either give a call to the service desk to report an incident, or an end user is they have access to the portal and they can actually submit an incident themselves without calling the service desk. In some cases, we also have users as your event monitoring tools. So if you have an event monitoring tool, you'll take care of your events. So we do have integrations where event monitoring tools can actually interact with our ServiceNow system and create an incident directly. So that works as well. So your first role that we are talking about is caller. The next is incident manager. Incident manager is really an overarching role, right? So this is the person who is actually looking at the overall incident management as a process. Like, how is your process working in terms of, how the incidents are getting logged? Are the escalations working? Are there too many escalations? Are the SLA levels are the teams meeting their SLA levels or not? So these are some of the things that incident manager looks at and ensures that there is an effective incident management process in place. Next, we come to your first level support, service desk. It is crucial, obviously, this is your first level support, which kind of takes all your calls, all your incoming emails, all your incoming chats, and determines, whether it's a request, whether it's an incident. If it is an incident, they will try their obviously best to resolve that incident in the first place. And once they are done, if they are not able to resolve, that is when they actually escalate it to the second level group. Last one is obviously your second and your third level groups and all your support groups for particular applications or database or servers. So these are the different roles from an incident management process standpoint. Now, within ServiceNow, all of these roles are not really differentiated, and you have one role which is called as ITIL role. And you give that role to the users, and your users can basically perform or have access to the incident management application. Your caller or your self-service user, these are the users. They don't have any roles, but they will still have access to the service portal, service catalog to be able to actually submit a request or submit an incident. But when it comes to like a process standpoint, it is still important for you to, kind of identify who your incident manager is, or who are the members who will be part of the service desk or the incident support group. And one of the things that we usually say or talk about is anytime you're doing an ITSM implementation, one of the important things to take care of is your core data. And that is your user data, your groups. Ensure that your groups are defined well to handle your incident process or your change process. So that is one of the important activities that we walk our customers through when they are getting ready to implement any ITSM process that, for that matter, it's just not incident management. Now, we talk a little bit about the process flow, right? So this you might have seen a different version of it or a similar version of it. So this is where first step in the process is obviously you need to identify if there is an incident. Once you have figured out that there is an incident, it could be via a call, email, chat, and integration that you have in place. Once the incident has been identified, you need to go and log that incident. The logging process is, again, very crucial, right, because you want to have all the relevant information documented so that troubleshooting can be done effectively. Or if you're resolving the incident, you have the right information logged in so that you can find out the relevant knowledge articles and relevant tasks that might exist in the system. Now, as part of the classification, you document all the information that is required, and then you perform initial support. This is where you're looking at, looking at knowledge articles or looking at existing change requests or problems to identify if there is already a similar kind of incident already going on in the system or in the environment. So you do your initial support. You obviously try your best to actually kind of resolve the incident. If it gets resolved, at that point you actually resolve the incident and you send the incident back to the customer for confirmation. If not, you escalate or you reassign the incident to your second or your third level support group, depending on how your organization is set up. Now, once you do that, investigation and diagnosis process, here is where you're, again, looking at your CIs. If you have a CMDB in place, you're looking at your relationships to identify possibly what went wrong and what is it that you can do to either provide a workaround or provide a quick resolution to resolve that incident. If you can resolve the incident, you will try to provide a workaround or provide a fix and resolve the incident. If not, you actually look at the existing problems and see, if there is a need to actually do a root cause analysis. If you're able to provide a workaround, you resolve the incident, and even if you have to do a root cause analysis at that point, you will create a problem record to actually do the root cause analysis. But at this point, you have obviously resolved the incident by giving a workaround. So you hand it over to the problem management process at that point. Now, once the incident has been resolved, we give our customers a chance to validate if the incident is truly resolved, and they get, in ServiceNow, there is a property, basically, they get a number of days to look at the incident and ensure that their issue is truly resolved. It is, so in ServiceNow, it is really in the customer's hand or the caller's hand to close that incident, or there is a property which lets you set a number of days after which the incident is automatically closed if the customer has not responded back to you. So this is really the overall process, very high level, very quick overview of what the incident management process flow looks like.
Nice. Shiva, that's a great information. Now it's very clear that what the incident is, what incident management process is. So can you quickly walk me through different steps I can take to implement this process?
Sure, Rohan. That's really a good question, right? So we all looked at the incident management process. Now, what are a few things that you really have to think about when you start implementing your incident management process is, again, very critical. This is, again, so what we're going to do here is we'll look at each of these activities and think through what are some of the decisions that you will have to make as part of implementing the process. So let's take a look at the first step, which is incident identification and classification. So this is where you have a new incident. And so incident is brand new state. The state that is applicable in this particular phase is obviously new. So the incident is logged and you're trying to capture all the necessary information. So one of the things that you have to obviously think about is what are the different ways you're going to create an incident? Will you have your end users create an incident using email or a chat or a self-service portal for that matter? And most of the times we do suggest that having a service portal open or a self-service module open for users, end users, to actually submit their own incidents. So that's very critical. Now you have something called as incident templates, which is if you have a recurring incident that happens, this is where you know that customers call about a certain type of an incident frequently, so you might want to create a template for that. categorization, prioritization is, again, very important aspect of the incident management process, right? And then we'll talk about these in a little bit more detail, as well as major incident management. So let's look at categorization. Why do you use categorization today? Some of the customers that I've spoken to, they use categorization to actually trend on incidents, right? They want to report on it and see what kind of incidents they are getting. Some of them also use it for assigning an incident to the right support group, especially when you don't have a CMDB in place. So very good example, you don't have a mature CMDB. How do you automatically route the incident? In that case, having like a categorization or a categorization structure is quite helpful for routing incidents. So I have some examples here for different ways I've seen customers categorizing, and all of these are good. You know, you can use any one of these. So most of the implementations where I have done, we actually categorize based on based on the CI. So you populate the CI first. If you have your CMDB, you have your CI, and you put the category and subcategory based on the CI. Some of the customers are really particular about getting to the type of the issue that the users are reporting. So they do go to the category and subcategory, where the second example is a good example where you have CI as ServiceNow, your category in access, and your users are really having a login issue or a password issue, or they have a question. The last one is, again, another good example of categorization is where your service at high level defines what that business or the IT service is. Your CI, in this case, is the application, which is WebEx Connect. The category is, again, desktop software, and subcategory is where it tells you the type of issue. So these are different ways where, what I've seen our customers using, and all of these are right. You could use one or the other way to categorize an incident. Going to prioritization, out of the box, we do support the ITIL prioritization matrix, and you have P1 to P5. The way we define priority in ServiceNow is really based on the impact of the incident. That is, trying to understand what is the effect of the incident on the business, and then urgency, how urgent or how soon do you want that incident to be resolved. So it is a combination of impact and urgency which sets the priority. So we talked about prioritization, we have talked about classification, we talked about different fields that you have to fill in. Now, major incident piece, so again, our customers have all different rules to actually define what calls for a major incident. We do have, for major incident handling, we do have something called as incident alert management, and Rohan and I have been talking about actually doing a separate session for that, because it will take up the whole time to go through how do you go about handling major incidents. So you could let us know if that is something you will be interested in. Now, these are some of the decisions when you have to actually think about when it comes to incident identification and classification. So first of all, we talked about you need to decide what are the methods, different methods your users can actually use for creating incidents. Is it self-service, chat, phone calls, incoming emails, any kind of a monitoring service, or if you have any third-party integration? So you need to define what will be the different avenues that you're going to open up. The second is very crucial early on, try and differentiate between an incident and request. And trust me, this will only come when you have both request and incident in place. So when you start initially, you still might have cases where your callers call for a request and it gets logged as an incident. But we do give an easy way for you to kind of convert that incident to a request or cancel the incident and create a request instead. So again, do take a look at the service desk call plugin, which actually helps you, or at least forces the caller to think about, hey, is it truly an incident the customer is calling about, or is it a request? So it will actually force you to think about that. The next is incident classification scheme. Again, very important based on what are you trying to solve with it. That is something that you should think about very carefully what is it that you want to do with the classification scheme, and whether you want to have like 1 level, 2 levels, or 3 levels of classification. If you already have a major incident process, then again, it is very nice, but you still have to define what is the criteria to call an incident a major incident. Is it that a critical service is impacted? That's when an incident becomes a major incident. Or it is based on how many users are impacted or what regions are impacted. So you definitely have to define those criteria for calling an incident a major incident. Last one is obviously you have to take a look at the out-of-the-box form that we have and decide what fields or what information that you would like to capture. Do you have all the necessary fields to capture that information, or are there any additional fields that you might want to add to the incident form? So this is really part of the first step where all these decisions you need to think through when you're getting ready to set up that process. Now let's talk about incident support, and just bear with me. We have a few slides, and then I will take you through the demo and show you how actually it all works in ServiceNow. So when you're talking about initial support, this is where your first level support is actually trying to resolve an issue, right? So there are a few things, again, that you need to think about. Now, from a state standpoint or a state model standpoint, this is where you just got the incident. It is a new state. You can use in progress. That means that you are actively working on the incident. You can put it on hold if you want to gather more information from the customer, or if you think you already know that there is a change request open to actually resolve this incident. So you could use different on-hold reasons. And the last one is if you think that this is a duplicate incident or it's not an incident in first place, then obviously you have a state value of canceled. So you can pretty much, so like we discussed, if it is a duplicate incident, you know another incident is open for the user, you can cancel this and just work on the incident that is already open. So that's a good example of a canceled as a state value. Some of the other things that you have to actually think about is assignment groups. We talked about it. You need to have the core data set up even before you start with the process. I did put a number of decisions when it comes to how an incident is routed, and this is where most of our discussions happen whenever we are implementing an incident management process. So how do you actually assign an incident automatically? When the incident is created, it could be based on the contact type, like how the incident was created from self-service. If it was created from an event monitoring tool, like what the source of the incident was. And again, as we discussed, you could do it based on the CI, based on the caller's location, based on the category, subcategory, etc. So I did list some of the other things that you have to consider when you're getting ready to do the incident assignment, or you're trying to set up the incident assignment, basically. So first thing is, you need to think about, are all your incidents going to be routed through Service Desk? Or do you have some rules already in place? For example, if an incident is created from an event monitoring tool, do you directly route it to the support group? And that might just save you some time. You could also have a rule where you think that if an incident is created from an incoming email, always send it to the Service Desk. You might have these kind of rules. Is there a need for a location-based routing? Again, depending on your regions, the countries you're providing support to, you might need a location-based routing as well. The last one is obviously very common that I've seen is CI-based routing. So if you have a CMDB which is mature enough, obviously you can automate the routing process by using CI information. Let's look at the investigation and diagnosis process. So in this case, you're still kind of, looking at the incident, troubleshooting, trying to figure out if, what exactly needs to happen and how can you resolve that incident. So this is where, we talk about setting up the SLA definitions, setting up reassignment rules. For example, if an incident has been reassigned multiple times, and you think that, hey, it has been reassigned a number of times and I need to do something about it. So are there any rules that you want to set up how do you handle escalations, and what are the different notifications that get sent. From a straight transition point, you're still in progress, or you're trying to figure out how are you going to resolve the incident. Some of the decisions that you need to think through is procedures for reassigning incidents. Some of our customers have automated escalation processes. For example, if I assign an incident to, let's say, level 2 support, and depending on the priority, they have not acted on it or they have not started working on it, do I automatically reassign it to the level 3? So this is something that you'll have to think about. I've seen some cases where customers don't have any kind of an escalation process defined for the use case that I just mentioned, and they have a manual escalation process. For example, I can, just reassign my incident manually, and I can take my time. So that's something that you'll have to think about. Some of the customers, I've seen that, for reassigning incidents, they actually suggest possible support groups you should think about when you're reassigning an incident, and it could be purely based on CI or location of the customer. So some of the reassignment or the assignment configurations that you need to think through when you're setting up this process. Escalation handling, we talked about one of the use cases. The other one is purely hierarchical. For example, are you meeting your response or resolution SLAs, right? So if you have a P1 and let's say you have a response of 15 minutes, are your users picking up and, have they told the customer that they are starting to work on it? So there are escalation workflows that run in the system and kind of escalate or send notifications to the assignment group members, the group manager, and keep them informed on the SLA definitions. And then again, you can obviously update the workflow to match like what works for you, but we have actually updated the workflow and we've ensured that all the use cases are taken care of, and we'll take a look at that. Something else that you have to look at is obviously the notifications that are defined, and take a look at the notifications, what exists out of the box, and see if you need any additional notifications. Users in ServiceNow can actually subscribe to notifications. So if there is any kind of a notification where you think that it is a mandatory notification and users should not be able to unsubscribe from it, you can make that by marking that notification mandatory. So that is something else that also you need to think through. Are there any mandatory notifications? So after the incident and the diagnosis process, now we are looking at resolution and recovery. So at this point, you're sure that either you have some kind of a workaround or maybe a permanent fix that you can provide to the caller, and you can mark the incident resolved. So at the time of resolution, it asks you for resolution codes or resolution note. So this is something where our customers actually go configure resolution codes. Again, out of the box, we do provide some options, but you can take a look at it and see if there are any additional values that you would like to add. Now, depending on what processes are you implementing in ServiceNow, you might want to have a process where if you're resolving an incident and it actually requires a change, then you do want to initiate your change process from the incident. So we do have those relationships defined within the system. But then again, you have to make that decision. Conscious decision is that, hey, am I implementing change process? Should I have my users create a change request from the incident, or should I enable that a little later when I have change process in ServiceNow? Similarly, if you're implementing problem management, you obviously have a direct link between incident and problem management, and it totally depends. Out of the box, it is enabled, but you can actually make that decision again consciously to say that if that is something you need to disable or just have it there in the system. So these are some of the things you need to think about when it comes to resolution and recovery process. This is the same exact thing that we talked about, that if the service is restored, obviously you resolve the incident. If a change is needed, you can initiate a change request from the incident. If a problem is needed, the system gives you the capability to actually initiate a problem from the incident as well. Something else that our customers that I've seen doing is really when you did the initial categorization. So when you're getting ready to close the incident, this is where you actually know what happened. So some of our customers do go change the categorization to correct what the issue was reported versus what the actual issue is. It might be same, it might be different. So this is something, again, a conscious decision around process that you might want to put in. And the last one is obviously the resolution codes. Last step in this whole process is incident closure. You can define the closure guidelines. One of the things that you will obviously think through is, we talked about auto closure of the incident. So once the incident is resolved, you can give a certain number of days for your caller to come back and say that, hey, my issue is not resolved. And there is a property that controls all this. So if the customer or the caller doesn't respond back in, let's say, 6 to 7 days, and it totally depends, very configurable, you can make that decision and close the incident automatically. I have seen most of our customers close incidents automatically, and they make use of the property. Reopen guidelines. Now, this is a critical one. As a proven practice, we always suggest that once the incident is closed, you really should not reopen the incident. We do give our callers a chance to reopen the incident from the resolved state, and we give them enough time to think through and validate if the issue has been resolved or not. So if they come back within the number of days that you have defined, yes, the incident can be reopened, but it is going from resolved to back to work in progress. But once the incident is closed, you cannot reopen that incident. And what we suggest is, have the caller create a new incident by either contacting the support or sending an email or service catalog and open up that new incident. So that's the common practice. That's what we propose to most of our customers. And then the last one is obviously you do have surveys that you can actually send out from within ServiceNow. So there are a few things that you would want to consider. If you do want to use surveys within ServiceNow, then obviously defining on the questions is one thing, but you do want to look at the frequency of setting up or sending those surveys to the same user and what those trigger conditions are. I have seen customers where they do want to survey 100% of the incidents versus cases where customers want to survey, maybe 50% of the incidents, not even all the incidents that gets closed for a particular user. So with that, we have talked a lot about the process and some of the key decisions that you have to make when you're getting ready to actually set up the process. And now we will go take a look at how it all works in ServiceNow. And I will, during that process, I will actually talk through some of the configuration points that we touched on earlier and actually how you can make those configurations as well.
Great. I was anxiously waiting for this section because there was a ton of information, and now I need to digest and relate it with the demo. Great. Thanks, Shiva.
Thank you, Rohit. So let's see. We talked about different avenues for creating incidents, right? So what I'm going to show you right now is, let me just log in here. So with the first thing, and I'm sorry, if only I could log in as Joe employee. So what I wanted to really show is log in as a self-service user and show you the portal to see how a self-service user can submit an incident using the portal. So let me go back to home and I can show you how it all looks like. So this is the portal, very user-friendly interface. Now, if you go here, you will see Get Help. And here you see either report an issue or create an incident. And the key here is that we have kept the form really simple and very minimum basic questions that the customer has to answer to, and they have an easy way to submit an incident, right? So let me just say that I don't have access to SAP payroll is not working. So basic information, they don't have to fill in too much information. They can do attachment screenshots. Let me go submit the incident. Now, as you can see, it gives you like a very friendly message. You can actually track your incident status from the home page. And if you click on the actual incident, this is the view from the portal, what you see, like you have just created the incident, what your priority is, and what state it is in. So right now it is in new state. Now, let me go back here, and right now I'm logged in as a system administrator. So I'm going to impersonate a service desk user. So my ITIL user is a member of service desk, and let's see if I can actually see the incident that Joe just created. Now here you have the incident module. We called it Left Navigation. It's very straightforward. Again, we don't have too many modules here. This is something that you can configure however you want, but you can create a new incident as an IT user. It shows you a list of incidents that are assigned to you directly. Any open incident, like all open incidents that are unassigned. So this is what we are interested in right now. So let's take a look at all the open incidents that are not assigned. You can sort the incidents as they came in. I have sorted it by number. So I see the incident that Joe just created, and you will see that it was directly assigned to service desk. So this is an automated assignment when Joe created the incident from using the portal, right?
So Shiva, is it like there is a rule behind the scenes that is making this automated assignment, or how is it getting automated assignment?
Good question, Rohan. So you can actually set it up different ways, but what we have done in the system is there is something called as assignment rules. And sorry, I am logged in as an ITIL user, so I won't be able to show that to you. Let me go back as a system administrator, and I'll show you how these rules are working. So these are called assignment rules. And if you take a look at the rules here, sorry. Okay, I'm going to actually filter it and show you the ones that are working on the incident, right? So the one that assigned that particular incident to service desk, that one is right here. So this is where it says it runs on the incident table. And actually, if any new incident that gets created, it's going to actually go ahead and assign it to service desk. So that's the rule. It has a very simple condition builder. So you can say that, if my contact type was service desk or self-service, then just go ahead and assign it to service desk. So this will work as well. So these are the assignment rules. There are a few examples out of the box, and you can configure assignment rules pretty much on any table.
Great, nice.
So let's take a look at the assignment that just, let's take a look at the incident that just came in. So this is the one that we were working on. So let's see. This came in as a contact type self-service. Category was inquiry help because it's very simple. Now let's see. I am part of service desk, or right now I'm logged in as administrator. I'm not going to worry about it. Let's just fill in some of the basic information, right? So it's SAP. Let's categorize it right. We put the category as application. There is a subcategory of SAP. And SAP business, SAP payroll is also defined as a business service. So I'm going to populate all that information. And let's see. So at this point, what I can do is I can look for any relevant information here. Right now, it doesn't show me any related search results, but if I'll show you an example where it will show you all the related search results. Now, here, if you look at this screen, right next to Joe employee, there is a show related incidents. So this shows you all incidents that are open for that particular user. So very quick way to look at if the customer, has any open incidents that are already there, or if this is a duplicate incident or not. So let's see. Now, right next to business service, you'll see a small icon, and if you go actually take a look at that, you will see the dependency maps. Now here, it is interesting that if you take a look at it, it has few exclamation marks and an X mark. What does it all show, right? So it shows that this business service is actually part of another parent business service, which is SAP Enterprise Services. So let's take a look at and see what is going on. And you can see that there is a small hover over where it shows that there is already an open problem that has been created for that particular business service. So let's take a look at that. Interesting information. Here you see that, there is already a problem record created for unknown source of SAP outage. And you can see that, that David is actually working on it. So you know now that there is something going on with your SAP service as such. Now let's go back to the business service and see what other information can we actually find. You can also go from using that small little icon. So it is, and this is visible, when you have your relationships defined, right? So this is why we say that setting up or having your CMDB and CI data is so important. So you take a look at the business services, and you can see the business service that we were looking at was SAP Payroll. So we go back to that service. And here, you can see. And here, if you actually take a look at it, there is a small eye icon. In the other map, it was even more visible. And this shows me that there is an incident that is actually associated with the app server. So now you know that, if I look for any incidents against that CI, you might be able to find out what else is going on. So this is really all the important information that is already available to you if you have your CMDB set up right and the relationships defined right, that you can actually use to troubleshoot the incident. So let's go back to that incident. SAP Payroll, let me just assign it to myself. Or let me just assign it to the idle user. So I take ownership of that for the time being, and let's go back. So we saw that there was an incident that was going on with the app server. So I'm going to actually save that information here. Now that I have a little bit more information and I know what else is going on. So let's take a look at any open incidents that are against that particular CI, right? So you can see here now that there is an open incident and there is a critical incident that is already open. So the incident number is 12. So we know it is a high critical incident that the David Dan is actually working on from the server team. And what we can do at this point is really, make the incident that was created by the Joe employee, mark it as a child incident. So how do you do that? I just copied the incident number that already existed. And if you look at the related incidents, this is where you can actually put the information. So now these two incidents are linked, and you can basically work on the parent incident now, which Dan is already working on. And if you scroll down, you will see the child incident is linked to the parent now.
Okay, so this is how you define the parent-child relationship. So in case you resolve the parent incident, the child will also get automatically resolved, or is this what the parent-child relationship is used for?
Yes, very valid, right? So in this case, really, whoever is working on the incidents, they don't have to communicate or update all the child incidents. This is exactly how the parent-child relationship is managed within ServiceNow. So what Dan has to do really here is, once he figures out what is going on and if he wants to send a communication to all the users, right, he doesn't have to go do it on individual tickets. So let's just update the additional comments, and I'm just sending a note. And what this does is when Dan updates the additional comments, it'll not only send a notification to Able telling, what is going on with the incident, but the information is cascaded to the child incidents, and Joe employee will also get a notification, and he'll be updated with all the information, or all the updates rather.
Okay, nice.
So you can see the incident was copied. Now, quickly, while we are here, I wanted to touch on the SLAs, right? So here in ServiceNow, again, or what I've seen from my implementations, all of our customers have SLA definitions defined for all incidents, whether P1, P2, and you have the SLA definitions here. And the SLA tasks or the task SLAs get attached to the incident and they are running. In this case, you can see that the priority 1 response SLA was met, and Dan actually accepted the incident within 4 minutes. So that's why you see that the response SLA was met. But if you take a look at the resolution SLA, you have 1 hour to resolve the incident, and you can see that it is already 1 hour, 15 minutes. So it is in progress, but obviously it shows you red. It means that per the SLA definition, you have not met the target that was defined, so you kind of missed out on the SLA. Still, let's go ahead, give credit to Dan, and actually go ahead and resolve the incident, right? So let me just go ahead and let's say that he has figured it out what is going on, and he resolves the parent incident. So when you're getting ready to resolve the incident, you do have to provide some information. Let's just say that I found a permanent fix and resolved, and I'm sending a note again to the customer with what the actual resolution information is. And then once that information is sent, it'll actually send a notification to the customer and let them know that their issue is resolved. And let's take a look at the child incident. You'll see that is resolved as well.
So is this the time when the customer can again reopen it, or it will be later after you close the incident?
No, so you're right. So this is the time, right? So once the incident is resolved, the caller gets a notification. This is the time for them to actually go validate and make sure that their incident is truly resolved. And this is where they can actually go back and open the incident. So you can see that a note was sent to the Joe employee as well. So this is where they can actually go ahead and reopen the incident, or they can accept the resolution and actually close the incident. So this is the point.
Okay, nice. So quickly, I'm not sure if you are wrapping up the demo, but on the notifications piece, I usually get confused how many notifications should we be sending? What are the best practices around them? I mean, I do not want to bug my users. So can you give any guidance on the number of notifications or any best practices around notifications?
Sure. This is a perfect time for that question, Rohan. So there are actually, if you take a look at the notifications, there are quite a few notifications that are out of the box. And then we do propose, we do tell our customers the notifications that they should be sending out. So anything, whenever a new incident is created, obviously you want to send a notification to the assignment group. And then if you are updating the comments, right, you do want to send a notification to the caller so that the caller is aware as to where the incident is and how the incident is progressing. So that's very important. And then whenever a customer replies, we send a notification to the assigned to or the assignment group. So they are again notified that, hey, customer has responded, and now I need to go work on it again. So these are some of the notifications, and the last one is obviously the resolution notification, which is quite important, right? Because this is where you're letting the customer know that, hey, the incident is resolved. But then with all these notifications, we obviously give our users, ServiceNow users, the flexibility to unsubscribe from notifications. If, with push notifications getting enabled, if, they think that, hey, I have the push notifications on phone, and I know what is going on, or I'm on the incident all the time, they can actually go unsubscribe from the notifications that they don't want to see.
Okay, cool. So, Shiva, just a quick time check. I think we are already running late. Do you have more slides to show, or we can take any questions now?
You know what? Very valid point. I just have one last piece that I need to cover, and this is around governance, right? I mean, we have defined our processes, everything is working well, but you still need to have those process controls that kind of, ensures that your process that you have set up is effective and, that it's all working. You have defined the right process procedures in place. So we call them process controls. And to actually measure them, we do have KPIs that we have defined, and there are reports, there are metrics that you can actually make use of and ensure that you're basically heading in the right direction. I have given some examples here. For example, you do want to track what is your mean time to resolution, and then there's obviously, whenever you define a KPI, there is an objective that you're trying to meet. And in this case, you want to identify what is the percentage of incidents that are getting resolved in the targeted time. So these are some of the examples. We do have metrics reports out of the box in the system that actually helps with all this. We also have an incident management dashboard with PA that is that our customers can actually make use of to trend and track some of their performance KPIs. And with that, that's all I had to cover in this session.
Great. That was very helpful information, Shiba. Thanks for the guidance. And now I would want you attendees to start asking questions, and they can do so on the Q&A panel. And while you're typing your questions, I'll go through a couple more slides which talk about some additional resources which you can use apart from this webinar. So if you go to the next slide, Shiva, I have the resources listed, and the one very good resource is the process guides, which you can find on Hi portal. Just search for ServiceNow process guides and you will find it. That will help you in the implementation process. Our product documentation site has a lot of information about all these pieces that we discussed in the webinar today about SLAs and major incident and other advanced topics. There might be some videos as well on the doc site, which will help you understand it. One good advice is that just be on the latest release, and not just the latest release, but also keep checking the latest patches. If you click on these slide decks will be posted on the community, and you can click on these hyperlinks. Look from the patches, you can get to know which, if we have already fixed any issues, you can just leverage that using the patch. And there is a known error portal as well. This other resource, good resource, is the community. On the next slide, you will have more hyperlinks on these community blogs, community guides, and discussions. I wanted to mention that discussions is a very good place to ask your how-to questions or very simple basic questions. If there is not if it is not very too much in-depth technical thing, then you can obviously leverage community, because the response time on community is much higher and quicker. So that actually wraps up all our presentations. I'll see if there are any questions in the Q&A panel, but I know we are running short of time. If we do not cover things here, you can feel free to post your questions or any suggestions on the community, and we'll take care of that. I see not much, but Shiva, I have a quick question. You were talking about some reports. Can you quickly show me those reports? Where do they exist? And the reports which are part of your governance and measurements.
Sure. So I will actually show you, first of all, and this is, if I look at dashboards, so this is my performance analytics dashboard, and I just ran like a quick
looks like you're
to
still,
make sure.
Sorry to interrupt. It looks like you are still sharing the slide deck, not the browser.
Is it? There might be some kind of a delay. Let me just stop and quickly start sharing again. Okay. Can you see the screen now?
Yes, I can.
You can? Okay. So I just typed in dashboard on the left navigation. And here under self-service, this is where you actually see the incident management dashboard. And this is the trending data that I was talking to you about. This is where you have good information on the KPIs, right? The basic indicators, number of open incidents, how your backlog looks like, and it shows you the trend as well. So this is really a very good dashboard to make use of. And other than that, there are really a lot of out-of-the-box reports that you can actually look at.
Okay, nice. And after that, we have a couple more questions. So,
okay.
Yeah,
sure.
Do you want to take the questions first?
Yeah, let's take the questions first.
I think the first one is, what is the best way to track status or chase calls? I'm not sure. I'm not getting that question, but I hope you understand it. It is asked by Costa.
Best way to track.
What is? Yes. What is the best way to track?
So, you know what? So I talked about the Service Desk plugin, and I would say that is the best way to track your status calls. So if you look at the Service Desk plugin, and I don't think I have the plugin enabled, but if you take a look at that, one of the category there is really status calls, and it also lets you pick the incident number, so you can track the number of status calls you have received against a particular incident number. I hope that answers the question.
Great. I hope. Otherwise, if not, Costa, you can. Okay, Costa said thank you, so it answered.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Shiva.
Okay.
The other question is, do you break out technology services like storage, network, etc., from business services like SAP, or they are all grouped together?
So in the system, we do break out. So at the end of the day, it is all at the high level, the CMDB_CI service, but we do break it out between business services versus IT services. So you do have an option to break them out, and it's just a different table, but it all, at the end of the day, it all extends from CMDB_CI_service as the parent table.
Okay. So I hope that answered Franco's question as well. I see no other questions. And also, we are at the top of the hour, so we'll have to close this session. As I said, please keep checking the community post. We'll post the slide deck and recording of this webinar there. And thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Shiva, for taking this session.
Thank you, Ron.